So, Owen, you recently made this thing called the Endo Collection, right?
Yes, yeah.
And essentially, can you run me through exactly what it is? What you like? What would you best define it as? Because I think I could create a word, but I don't know if it would be the best one to use.
So basically, it's kind of it's an idea that I had in early January of this year, so roughly like 6 months ago.
Okay.
And so the entire kind of premise of it is as like an inspiration, and so that's coming right now in the form of clothing because so I'm in school for design and love that kind of stuff, and so I think of it as basically a way to inspire people through wearing something that they enjoy, and to kind of serve as a reminder to to like follow what they want to do. And I think it's really hard to describe because it's so driven by like emotion and kind of feelings.
Yeah.
And it's very loose. So I've had a hard time trying to contain that and put it in a box.
For sure.
But I think the biggest point of it is, so endo means within. It's like a scientific whatever goes at the beginning of the word.
A prefix or something.
Yeah. And so it means within. And so the whole concept is that I got really into kind of like self-development stuff, and the idea that basically you have all the power to do anything what you want from within you. And so for things like this, like the podcast and passion projects, which I think passion's overused as a word, and I feel like it kind of is a very broad idea.
Yeah.
But people know what you mean when you say passion, and so I feel like it's kind of the inspiration to follow those kind of things that are really what you want to do, because things like a podcast, things like what I'm doing with clothing, things like that people wouldn't see as traditional jobs or ways to make money, I think can really turn into something incredibly successful because you're so passionate about it and so feel so strongly about it. So that wasn't really a great answer to your question, but
no, thanks for giving a breakdown of it. And I've had when I'm looking through stuff like your website and your bios that where you've been talking about it, I've been really interested in a lot of the points you've been talking about, how the idea that creativity is not only sometimes I would say misdefined or not defined in the right way in our contemporary society, but then also that creativity is held within everyone to a large extent, and everyone has the ability to do a lot of good things, even though a more contemporary view would be that only certain people have the both creativity and the means to create something good and to help other people. And I was curious, I guess, when I'm thinking about that whole message, is that something that like you said, when you created the project back in January, was that the ideology behind it? Was that something that you had learned a long time ago and it built up towards that, or was it something that came to you sort of hand in hand with when you started the project?
So I think it's kind of a combination of both. One, because I grew up as my dad is a graphic design teacher, my mom was a medical illustrator, so I'm from a very artistic family. So I've always kind of been in the traditional and very normal sense of creative as artsy kind of family. And so, but then once I got to school, and school kind of had changed a lot of my perspective on things. And so I realized that a lot of people that are there are creative in their own ways. For example, math or projects that really people wouldn't see as artsy, because a lot of times artsy is correlated with creative.
Yeah.
And so I think it was kind of a combination of, both of those things. And then once I started it, because it was really an idea. I know a lot of people talk about how ideas really didn't come from them. It was just kind of it just happened all of a sudden, and or thinking about it in the shower or driving or something. And it was very much one of those things where it just kind of came to me almost. And so I think that kind of idea that, and I think that's why it feels so successful. And in my head, it feels like it's something that's going to become really big, because it felt like something that wasn't really from me. It was kind of just appeared in my head.
Okay, for sure.
And so, but I think that, to your point about creativity, and I think the idea that Endo is trying to represent is that creativity is more than just being artsy. It's things like this for a podcast, which people, would see as a project that might not be creative. It's a business venture or something like that. And so creativity can, exist in all forms of anything that's, creation. So a business, a new business, or entrepreneurship, and anything like that. I think creativity exists in there. So
I feel like a lot of people are like you said, they're creative with math and shit like that, but when somebody likes something enough and they're so into it, there we go again, back to the word passion. like when they're so passionate about something, you'd be surprised, one, how like smart they can be in it, and like one, how much they know about it, and three, like how creative they can get with it. Like I have some friends that like people perceive them as like not the brightest people, but when I hear them like talk about like the things that they're passionate about and you know every little detail, and they're like, I want to do this, do this, do this, I'm like, you know, you go for it, bro. Like don't be held back because like somebody like calls you an idiot because like you show yourself as that, and that's your personality, but behind closed doors, like I know how smart you are, and that you should go for that. And another thing, like the letter that came with this, beautiful letter.
Thank you.
Yeah. Actually, so you just, I guess on that, so you just released a new T-shirt with the tagging of the Vault of Eternity, which I thought was pretty metal, pretty tight. I guess with that, so back to the point of like trying to define exactly what you're doing here within this sort of collection. You have smaller projects, or at least like sub projects, like this new T-shirt. And what was the ideology behind that? Because I remember seeing a lot of the messages. I saw the letter too once I got mine, and I was just curious what your ideology was when you created those.
So there's a bunch of different ideas that I feel like kind of like different facets of the idea that Endo becomes. And so this is one example of, like, the shirt was one example of something that I thought was important to the idea of Endo. So the concept is called Vault of Eternity, and the idea is that on the front of the shirt, which Parsa is graciously wearing right now, is like a bank vault. And so it's like an open bank vault, and it's placed over your heart. And then the back is, oh, lovely Parsa.
Jesus Christ, Parsa.
Love it. The back is this, these like curling kind of tendrils of color. And so the idea is that, all these ideas and, business inspirations, all these kind of magical things that can really go and change the world are just from within. And so it's the idea of opening this vault. And so like letting out what's on the back. So letting out those curling tendrils of color, which represent creativity and originality and all that kind of stuff, and opening up to the world and, bringing it into life instead of just letting it be an idea.